So
Sorry, I don't understand.
it's 11:35. So I think welcome everyone. Good morning. Thank you for joining our panel discussion on workforce development and creating jobs through nature-based solutions. My name is Eli Allen. I lead Civic Works, the Center for Sustainable Careers in Baltimore. So during today's panel conversation, you'll be hearing directly from local leaders about why and how they're working to prepare residents for opportunities in the green economy. So we'll start with some presentations from each of our speakers, and then spend the remainder of our time with a panel discussion and the opportunity for members of the audience to ask some questions. So to start, we'll soon hear from Sam Little, who is an environmental education youth development nonprofit professional at the Parks and People Foundation in Baltimore City. He facilitates meaningful outdoor experiences in Baltimore, parks and green spaces for people of all ages. He works with the Parks and People Foundation youth programs, including Branches, which is an after-school internship and summer job for high school students. Also leads the Super Kids camp for elementary school youth. He has a Master's of Science from the University of Michigan School for Environment Sustainability with a focus on education, environmental justice, and conservation psychology. Sam believes in environmental education that can bring out the best in people, form positive relationships between people and the natural world, improve mental health and physical health, and enhance ecological integrity. So I will turn it over to Sam Little. Thanks.
Thanks, Eli. And good morning, everybody. Thank you for the wonderful introduction. I'm here to talk a little bit, just to give a quick overview of one of our workforce development type programs, Branches. So I'm going to share the screen to start. So as Eli mentioned, I manage our environmental education programs here at Parks and People Foundation. And I've been here for 8 years in Baltimore City, and 5 of those I've been running workforce development related programs, particularly with high school students, as you see on the screen there, in our Branches program, which I'll go into more detail over the next 10 minutes. And that picture is just from a garden from one of our cohorts a couple school years ago in Sandtown, Winchester. It's a beautiful little space called Spall Street Garden. So, taking a step back and talking about what we do as an organization really quick overall, our mission is uniting Baltimore through parks. And we do that through a number of different ways. Our focus is on creating public parks and green spaces in communities around the city. We've been doing that for 35 years since we started. And also our other main focus is working with youth, which is the seat that I sit in, and that's with our summer camp, Super Kids, which starts next week with staff training, as well as Branches, which I'm going to talk about more today. And our vision is everybody in Baltimore is connected to nature, their community, each other through private parks and green spaces. So with Branches, we operate both in the school year as an after-school internship program for Baltimore City high school students, and then also in the summertime. And I'm going to talk about them as almost two distinct programs, but they overlap a lot. They just have very distinct program formats. And the way that we do it during the school year is we gather around 30 to 40 young people from public schools around Baltimore City. And they come to Parks and People during a normal year. I'll talk a little bit about how the pandemic has changed the program. And it's somewhere in between an after-school job and an after-school program for them. They'll come to 4 days a week. They work 2.5 hours a day. Last year, we switched over to a 2-cohort model, one in the fall, October through December, and one in March through June. That way we can work with more students in Baltimore City. And what they're doing in this program is general life skill building, preparing for college or careers, whatever comes after high school, and also with a focus on the green career aspect as well, becoming leaders in the environmental movement in Baltimore City. During the summer, it looks like a more typical first summer job for a lot of high school students. We partner with the Mayor's Office of Employment Development Youth Works program, which is a great opportunity for young people in Baltimore to have a 6-week summer job, which starts in 2 weeks. And they'll work with us over the course of the 6 weeks in their summer job, working 20 hours a week this summer, Monday through Friday, and that's typically June through August. It's all about exploring a career, getting work done, earning a paycheck, getting to hang out with your friends. And we do it in parks and green spaces around Baltimore City. And it's all small team-based work. They'll have a supervisor and go to different parks, go kayaking. And every week there's a different type of recreational activity they do. They'll do science, they'll do conservation. And some of the specific activities that we're talking about when we're working with our young people in Baltimore, it's all about character building, community greening, environmental education, stewardship, conservation, science, and recreation. So each of these big buckets, there's all sorts of associated activities. And I'll just, with the time I have left, give you a few examples. One of my favorite things that we do in the summertime and during the school year too is do a little bit of hands-on environmental science. This is a partnership we've had for several years with the Baltimore Ecosystem Study. And in this study, they were looking at how pharmaceuticals collect in watersheds around Baltimore City. And they do that through collecting insects in the streams and identifying them. And then they get sent over to a lab to figure out if there's any pharmaceuticals that have built up in the food web. And then they come up with a final report and presentation, and they get to show off what they found out over the course of the summer. Another green job that I'm really passionate about that we're getting our young high school students involved in is our young environmental educator team, where they work with our environmental educators in 2 Baltimore City parks and the roughly 600 elementary school students who participate in our Super Kids Camp get to come out, and they're leading environmental education activities in Glens Falls Lake Park and in Druid Hill Park. So that's everything from the stream study you see there, where they're catching crayfish and macroinvertebrates and looking at what it says for the health of the dead run there in Lincoln Park. And also helping out with focusing on improving the reading and maintaining it for the elementary school students that are participating in the program. So it's a chance to get a little experience with both environmental education and education as a profession in general. And spend time in 2 of the most beautiful city parks that we have to offer. Just a quick note on what we do during the pandemic. It was a major shift in programming, obviously, and we went all online, and we still are all online this summer, but hopefully next fall we'll get back to in person. So that looks like weekly Zoom calls, jam boards, and advocacy projects like you see there on the screen. And we've had some things that we're going to keep that we've learned from the pandemic, but a lot of it's going to go back to in person, more of what I've talked about. And as a whole, this program, it exists to make a positive impact on the Baltimore City local environment, provide meaningful paid work opportunities for young people, specifically in the green career fields, fostering those 21st century skills like creative thinking and problem solving, collective team building, that sort of thing, and also to connect them directly with careers in general in science, technology, engineering, and math specifically. That's my summary.
Thank you, Sam. Thank you for that really insightful presentation. And next up, we will be hearing from Beth Ginter. Beth became the Chesapeake Conservation Landscaping Council's first executive director in January 2020. They provide consistent training and practice standards for landscape professionals working in the Mid-Atlantic region through various programs, publications, and events. She also directed their Chesapeake Bay Landscape Professional Certification Initiative from 2015 to 2019, Previously, she was the founding principal of a landscape consulting and design company and led scientific communications for several firms. She earned a master's degree in sustainable landscape design at the George Washington University and has a BA from Virginia Commonwealth University. So next, I'll turn it over to Beth Ginter.
Thanks so much, Eli. Uh-oh, there's feedback. All right, that sounds better. Hopefully that sounds good to you guys too. All righty. So thanks so much for the opportunity to talk with you about our programs. So I'm just going to give you a little bit of background to start out with about our organization. CCLC is a nonprofit. I'm based in Silver Spring, Maryland, but we are a Bay-wide organization. So I always say that the focus of most of our programming right now is in Virginia, DC, Maryland, and Pennsylvania. But we do have plans to expand to Delaware, hopefully later this year, and then eventually to West Virginia and New York as well. So the focus of our organization is really providing education and training for landscape professionals from entry level to advanced professional training. And a big important focus for us is on collaborations, partnerships, community, and DEIJ. So our charge is really teaching about sustainable landscaping practices, and that includes native plants, habitats, soils, invasives, as well as resiliency and green infrastructure and nature-based solutions. So just a little bit of background about what is going on in the wonderful world of sustainable stormwater management. So we are investing a lot of money in the Chesapeake region to manage stormwater more sustainably to help reduce the amounts of nutrients and sediment going into the bay. And these stormwater best management practices are going in at a very rapid pace, and they don't always look very good. Many of the failures are caused by design or installation errors, or because there's no budget for maintenance, and the people who are maintaining them don't know what they are managing or how to do it well. Traditional landscape maintenance is not, most of those folks do not have the skills that they need to manage these specialized green infrastructure practices. In addition, we found that consumers who are looking for qualified professionals to put these practices on their own property don't know where to find qualified professionals, and that there were some ongoing trainings about how to do this better, but they were really inconsistent across the region. So that's where our signature program, CBLP, the Chesapeake Bay Landscape Professional Certification, is really designed to address these challenges and to support our stakeholder partners across the region while empowering this community of landscape professionals to do this specialized work. We also believe that stormwater practices provide a great opportunity. We're putting these things in the ground all over the region and making sure that they have native plants in them that also provide habitat and ecological benefits is a really important part of this work. We've also found that trained landscape professionals make really good partners for local governments who are incentivizing stormwater practices on private property. And when the BMPs look nice, everyone benefits. These landscape professionals really have a unique opportunity to affect change because they're working on so many properties and managing a lot of acres. So just a little bit of info about what the CBLP program includes. We have 2 credentials that are really at the heart of what we do. Level 1 is a professional credential that focuses on design, installation, and maintenance of stormwater practices, as well as sustainable landscapes. Level 2 is our advanced credential, and CBLPA is our entry-level program, which I'll give you a little more info about. And that provides just a broad introduction for young people to green infrastructure and sustainable landscaping. In addition, we are developing a series of certificates. So these are standalone courses on various topics. And in all of our training, we focus on the unique ecology and regulatory environment of our region. And we want to empower people to think critically, to work together and get out of their silos, and to implement an adaptive management strategy. So we are a highly collaborative group. We are a program and an organization that is steered, or the CBLP program itself is steered by a consortium of 5 partners, including CCLC, the organization that I work for, and those other organizations that you see there on the left-hand side of the screen. We started as an entirely grant-funded program, and we are working to become eventually financially self-sustaining, so that the program will eventually support itself. So just want to tell you about a couple of our entry-level programs where we're really focusing on young people who are coming into the workforce. So since the fall of 2018, we've been working with the Community College of Baltimore County to teach our Level 1 certification training as part of their curriculum. So this has been beneficial for the folks coming into the CCBC Sustainable Horticulture Program, in that Level 1 in a 1-semester course provides them with a longer amount of time to work with the material. Normally, Level 1 at a professional level course is taught in a 2 or 3 day format. And this gives them just a bit more time with what is a lot of material for people who are just entering the field. We have some of our certified instructors now are on the faculty at CCBC, and participants in the class sit for our Level 1 exam as their final exam. So as they're leaving the course or leaving the program, they are doing so with this professional credential, which is now being recognized by many of our partners in local and state governments, watershed groups, and other organizations across the Bay Area. So I also mentioned our certificate programs. These are really quite different. Each one of them is unique. 2 of them are focused on specific practices. So we have a series of courses that comprise the CBLP certificate in riparian buffer implementation and management. We're just working right now to develop a similar course on living shorelines that will be developed in Virginia and piloted in Virginia, and then offered throughout the watershed in the coastal plain areas. We also have a certificate course that focuses specifically on stormwater BMP maintenance. I mentioned that earlier because it is such a big concern that we are all facing. And this is really targeted to crews, so landscaping crews and crew leaders in local governments, state agencies, federal agencies, as well as private contractors. And we are just getting ready to relaunch this course in later this month. So last but not least, I'll tell you a little bit about CBLPA, which is our other entry-level program. CBLPA really provides a framework for our partners who offer youth programming, either camps, schools, green job programs and conservation training internship type programs. So this is providing a very broad introduction to green infrastructure and sustainable landscaping. And we have used all of the materials and framework developed for our level 1 and level 2 certification, but it has been adapted to be appropriate for this audience of young people, which typically ranges from about age 16 to 26. And it is a very flexible program that is designed to work with partners who are already serving this audience. We developed this in a partnership with Howard EcoWorks in Columbia, Maryland for their READY program. And we have since partnered with Prince George's County Parks and Recreation. They are delivering the content as part of their summer youth enrichment program. We have a new partnership as of 2020 with a nonprofit based in the Hampton Roads area of Virginia called the Elizabeth River Project. And we have 2 new school systems also in Hampton Roads, Virginia Beach Public Schools and Portsmouth schools will be coming on in 2021. And we have been able to, in Virginia, to secure credits. So students who attend Virginia high schools can obtain credits for completing the CBLPA training. So I won't go into too much detail, but the program itself is very flexible. We offer a lot of materials and a manual, and our goal is training our partners to actually deliver the content. So we work very closely with them in the first year to train them and provide them with all the materials that they need. We also help them to develop new content that is specific to their goals and really supporting their work. So just a couple of lessons learned. I think for us, really, it's been incredibly valuable and rewarding to work with so many different partners across the region. Somewhere around 50 different organizations, local governments, and academic institutions who are trying to train people on sustainable practices, and they really need help. So we have that has really become our mantra, is providing the support that they need. And when our current programming doesn't suit those needs, we have worked with them to develop something that is appropriate for their audiences. We also have found that some of our youth program partners are really looking for pathways to help launch the young people in their programs. So working with us, we have developed some opportunities for mentorships and connecting these young people with practicing landscape professionals, which obviously is beneficial for the youth. But it's also really nice for example, landscape contractors who are looking to hire people for entry-level positions. And it's really beneficial for them to hire people who already understand what green infrastructure is, why we care about stormwater, and what these practices should look like. So we're seeing that it's really beneficial for folks on both sides of the mentoring partnership. I would also just say that we have found that across the board, practicing professionals are hungry for this training. We have very high demand and interest, and the connections that we have been able to provide, really forming a community of like-minded, sustainably focused colleagues. For me, that's really the most rewarding part of our work, is it is helping to connect people with one another, because there's simply so much to learn in this field that we can't all know it all. So building collaborations with other sectors, and we see that happening all the time as a result of our training. So that's about all I'm going to share with you guys, but looking forward to our discussion.
Thank you, Beth, for that great presentation. And so next we will hear from our next speaker, Joe Tulin, who joined Chesapeake, the Chesapeake Bay Trust Outreach and Education Team in January 2019. He currently manages the Chesapeake Oyster Education Technology and Monitoring Program, as well as the Chesapeake Conservation Corps Mini Grant Program and the All Hands on Deck program. And prior to joining the Trust, Joe received a Bachelor of Science from the University of Maryland, College Park in Geographical Sciences with a concentration in Environmental Systems and Natural Resources Management. So I will turn it over to Joe.
Great, thanks for the introduction. I'm really happy to be here. Let me share my screen. All right, so I'm going to talk a little bit about the Chesapeake Conservation Corps, which is the Green Workforce Development Program that we manage here at the Chesapeake Bay Trust. So I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with the Chesapeake Bay Trust, but in case you are not familiar with the Trust, our mission is kind of to work with as many people in the watershed, in Chesapeake Bay watershed, and connect them with our natural resources. And we do that through providing funding. We do right now between 11 and 12 million in grants every year to different community organizations and people within our watershed. And our goal is simple, is that we think that everybody should be involved in restoring the Chesapeake Bay. And so we do that through lots of different types of funding. We manage, 10 or 15 different types of programs. And one of those is the Chesapeake Conservation Corps. So, what is the Conservation Corps? It's a green workforce development program. It was established in 2010 by Maryland legislature. And we pay people to work for a year in the environmental field. And so the only requirements for this program to be able to apply are that you're between the ages of 18 and 25, that you're a citizen, permanent resident, or you have documentation to work in the United States for a year. And just to go over some of the basics about what the program provides. So every year we're placing between 35 and 40 Corps members with host organizations throughout the Chesapeake Bay. And we do that by first putting out an application for any organization that wants to be a host. And then we put out an application for anyone that wants to be a member. And then we facilitate a review process. And then, the host basically can interview anybody that's applied to the program that they may be interested in placing. Right now, the stipend is hovering around $20,000. We're trying to increase that every year because we recognize that cost is kind of a barrier for a lot of young adults to apply to this program, especially when we start talking about increasing diversity in the Corps. We provide 6 professional development trainings throughout the year, which we've had to reimagine a little bit this year because of COVID. But it's definitely taught us that we can do things a little bit differently if we want to moving forward. We have 4 project days, which are the all hands on deck projects. And then we usually facilitate networking between different host organizations. And so, this year it did look a little bit different, but now that some of the restrictions on COVID have loosened up, I know a lot of our Corps members are starting to visit each other a little bit more safely, which is great. Each Corps member has to do a capstone project. And so it can be anything that they're passionate about, that they want to work on, that aligns with the mission of their host organization. And in doing that, we offer them a grant. And so this is a great opportunity for young adults to learn how to apply for grants and how to kind of look at RFPs and answer what they need to answer and then apply. And then I'm here and I kind of serve to give any feedback that they may need before they submit their application. And kind of then they can manage a project on their own. And it's a short-term project. Usually it's a 6 to 8 month project, but it's a really great thing that we offer to kind of help people get to learn a little bit more about grant writing. And then mentorship is another great program. So everybody that's in the Corps has a mentor who also does kind of serve as their boss throughout the year, but a lot of the Corps members get really close with their mentor and then they stay in touch after the Corps program is over. And it's really great to have somebody that you can go to, especially as the Corps comes to an end in August, when you're probably looking to go back to school or go to school or find a job kind of after the core ends. So, the trainings are required. I wanted to quickly kind of go over the different topics of the trainings that we do every year. And again, these have changed a little bit because of COVID and doing things virtually. But the goals of the trainings are basically just to increase the knowledge and skills of the core members in things related to their professional career and also the environmental field. And then also to kind of deepen their relationships. So a lot of the core members, we really want them to feel like they're in a cohort of people who are working with them for the year and that they can lean on after the program ends. And so this year, we did a team building training at the beginning that also included aspects of time management and self-care. Self-care is something that I think has also come out of the pandemic a little bit. And it was really great that we had somebody come in and kind of talk about how to do that. Because I think, especially as young adults, it can be hard to balance that sometimes. The Watershed Forum, which is in West Virginia, is the second training that we do every year. We have a leadership retreat, which is usually facilitated by the Environmental Leadership Program, which is a great program kind of on a larger scale, and they come and help with that. 2 years ago, we started our diversity, equity, inclusion, and justice training. And this year, one thing that we added was training for the host sites. So the host sites had to come and do an unconscious bias training, which we're hoping to expand a little bit more in the future, but that way we can ensure that core members are working with somebody who has at least had an introduction to diversity, equity, inclusion, and justice work. We provide a professional development training where people can come and learn how to interview and how to write their resumes and how to apply for jobs, how to find jobs, because I think a lot of people don't know that when they come into the field either. Like, even for me, I think I was like, I don't know how to do that. And so I wish I had something like this. And then we have an environmental education retreat, which is a retreat. It's usually out on Tangier Island in Virginia, which unfortunately we couldn't do this year, but we're hoping to bring it back next year. We have the All Hands on Deck program, which is basically 4 projects that everybody gets together to do throughout the year. And so there's lots of different types of projects, but one of the core members manages it. And then we all get together and go out and work, which is a really great thing. It's a really great way to connect people and get to know each other a little bit better. And then the peer-to-peer site visits. Again, part of it is just to, let people network a little bit more and get to know each other. And this has looked a little bit different in the pandemic. We've had some people do it virtually, and it's been a great experience to see that we can transition it. And so typically we require people to do 4, but we allow them to do as many site visits as they want to and as they can take the time to do. The grant opportunity I've talked a little bit about already, and I'm not going to go too much more into it right here, but there's a lot of different things the core members can do when they apply for this grant. And then what does it look like beyond the core? So, right now we're in our 11th year, so they'll be graduating soon. We're getting close to 300 graduates from the program. And then, we offer a lot of different things when they finish the core. We share job and professional development opportunities almost daily. We're sending out an email to the alumni. We have some networking events, and we're working on a database for the alumni right now, which I'm leading a little bit of. And then, in terms of what it looks like, a lot of our core members still stay in the Chesapeake region and they work on Chesapeake Bay related issues. But even those that don't, a lot of them go on to graduate school. Some of them go into other types of service programs. Some of them are hired by their host, and that's happening a lot right now even. So there's a lot of great ways to kind of transition from the core into the real world a little bit. And then this is just a little bit more information here about where you can find us for the core. And then the one thing I will mention that I didn't add to my slides because it's still very new is that this year is the first year that we ran an equity fellowship for the core. And what we did was provide 4 core members with an extra $5,000 to kind of do whatever they need to with that funding to help facilitate them being in the core. And that's something that, again, it's brand new, the first time that we did it. And I think that it's a good step in, helping out those that really need help to be in the core. And so I can chat a little bit more about that later also. But I will stop sharing my screen. And then let's see. we have a previous core member who's going to be joining us, and I think Eli, you will introduce her, but I'm happy that she's here to talk about the core a little bit more.
Thank you, Joe. Thank you for your presentation. And as Joe said, we also have the opportunity to hear today from Kelly Peaks, who is a 2019 graduate of the Chesapeake Conservation Corps. So Kelly graduated with a Bachelor of Science in Environmental Science and Policy from Marist College in 2018. And during her time in the Chesapeake Conservation Corps program, she was stationed with the Environmental Finance Center at the University of Maryland. So in that station, she assisted with the Sustainable Maryland program and other programs that have helped local communities finance green initiatives. After she finished the Chesapeake Conservation Corps program, she pursued a master's in public policy at the University of Maryland, where she focused on environmental justice and human rights issues. She recently graduated in May 2021 and is currently working as an operations assistant at the U.S. Impact Investing Alliance, a field building organization dedicated to increasing the practice of impact investing in the United States. So next, I will turn it over to Kelly.
Hi, hello. Yeah, so I'm Kelly. As you said, I did Chesapeake Conservation Corps in 2018, and honestly, it was such a wonderful experience. I was stationed at the Environmental Finance Center at University of Maryland, and I did mainly a lot of community engagement work. So I was working with different Maryland municipalities and helping them fund green initiatives or connect them with a bunch of other nonprofits to learn more about, stormwater, energy, all that kind of stuff. And honestly, it was so amazing. And as Joe said, my mentor he was so great. His name is Mike Hunninghake. He taught me a lot about just kind of what it takes to kind of run a nonprofit, how it is to work within communities, because I hadn't done too much community engagement before. But through this work, I realized that was something I really, really enjoyed doing. And I ended up taking that with me into getting my master's. When I was working at University of Maryland during my master's, I was doing so much community engagement. So I learned a lot and I developed a lot of skills from that might work with the CCC. And as Joe said, you have you're able to visit other people. And that was one of honestly the best parts of the program. Because obviously, you're doing your own thing all year, and visiting people, you get to see what they're doing. Because, I was one of the few people who definitely had more of a desk job. So I was able to go and visit other people who were actually doing field work. And I was learning so many new skills I never thought I'd learn. So that was honestly one of my favorite things about it. I really enjoy the CCC program, and it really has enabled me to just flourish in whatever I was doing in the past 2 years afterwards. So I don't know if anyone else has any questions about that, but I think that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Kelly, and thank you for sharing your experience in the program. So next, I'm going to ask our other panelists to join the stage, and we will transition to our question and answer portion. First, I'd like to see you already have a good number of question and answer Q&A questions in the chat. So please keep them coming, send them into the Q&A section, and we'll try to get to as many as we can. So I'm gonna start with some of the audience questions. The first one we have here for everyone on the panel: how do you find out about new types of green jobs to add to your programs? And how does a business or organization with a new type of green job go about connecting with the right people to kind of create a new training or to partner with your program? So I'm kind of open to anyone wants to take a stab at that question.
I can go ahead and start for what we're doing at the Conservation Corps. And so, like I said, we put out an RFP every year for host organizations that want to apply. And something that we're working on right now is to more intentionally reach out to groups we haven't worked with in the past. So, in the past, what we've done is take anybody that's kind of applied for a grant and do outreach to them to see if they want to apply as a host. And then we put out our RFP through like some of the things that I think a lot of us know about, like the Chesapeake Network or groups like that. And recently, we've been looking at organizations that have similar missions that maybe we haven't worked with in the past, that may have, also like types of projects that we haven't worked on in the past. So, we're kind of open to any group that is doing environmental work to being a host site. The thing about our program is that you do have to apply, and then there's kind of a little bit of a longer matching process between the host site and the core member. So just because people apply, it doesn't mean that they'll get placed with somebody, unfortunately, because there is that big, there's just a lot of people that want to host people. And so it's something that we can definitely keep working on also to engage people that we haven't in the past.
Just kind of chime in on Caitlin's second question about connecting with the right people to create training. So I would just say, like, I'm always available to chat with people, and a lot of the newer initiatives that we are working on just came about because someone called me up and said, hey, I think there's a need for this. Would you be interested? So we have a lot of flexibility. We're a pretty nimble, young organization, and we're really interested in, sort of this full spectrum of support for people along their career path.
Cool. Thank you. I may also ask a follow-up question too. It's kind of about the role employers play in your work. Have you experienced any successes or challenges in working with employers that hire or work with program participants? And then are there ways you've been able to kind of work with employers to strengthen their practices or to kind of, as Joe talked a little bit about, kind of do some screening to kind of, help ensure a good match between the employer and the program graduate?
I can also start with this one. I did mention a little bit that we started, doing training for host sites this year. Anybody that wanted to apply, that they had to do a unconscious bias training, which was a good start for us. I think it's something that it's really good to start introducing these ideas to people that want to be host sites. The thing that we're also really working on and that we want to ensure that core members know is that throughout the year, if they have any issues with their host site, no matter what it be, they can come to me or my colleague Tara, who works on the core, and chat about it. And that way we can sit down and really figure out what might be going on and how we can resolve it. We have had a few things happen in the past that I am not really able to talk about. But if something happens that does cause any sort of bad feelings or harm, we can always place somebody with a different organization. That's always an option that we have. And then really we want to focus on, we're here no matter what. It's a little bit hard for us because we aren't working at the places where we're like placing these young adults. And so, we're here to listen. And if there's ever anything that people need to share about, we're here to talk about it. And so that's the thing that I think sometimes, it's just good to know that we're here if anything does happen, and we're here to support the core member, because at the end of the day, the program is about helping the young adults get where they want to go.
Thank you, Joe. Next question we have is what do you think are next steps in creating a united green workforce development campaign for Greater Baltimore, or more broadly, maybe kind of a relevant additional question. I'm also thinking about networks like the Greater Baltimore Wilderness Coalition. How can they help amplify and grow your programs?
I think those are both really great questions. And one of the things that we are trying to do, and it's a process, it doesn't happen overnight, but we're trying to align, not just supportively, but to align ourselves with what other people are doing. And I think the CBLPA program is a really good example of that. Instead of like creating another youth program, this is essentially a curriculum that people can adopt, those partners who are already working with young people. So I guess that's one thing that we are actively trying to do, is grow that network of CBLPA partners. And one of the things that's happening that I'm really excited about is that these partners who are now in the network and who are geographically kind of spread out, they're starting to share information and materials and really learn from the experiences of others. So that's been really fun, just to see that the Summer Youth Enrichment Program in Prince George's County has been sharing a lot of information with our new partners in the Hampton Roads area of Virginia. And so that's the kind of sort of cross-pollination of ideas and learning that we get really jazzed up about. So Baltimore is very much on my mind, and we would really like to support other organizations that are doing outreach to young people in particular.
I could just jump off on that because I work with high schoolers entirely, and we're always looking for what are the right opportunities to just open the next door for the young people that are in the Branches program. And you never know what that's going to be. We work with everybody that's 14-year-olds that just started high school all the way up to 19-year-olds that are about to graduate, and some are further along than others in knowing what they want to do. Something like the CBLPA might be it for somebody. And we've had some folks start their own small businesses in landscaping, and having that very tailored expertise could do a lot for their careers, particularly in a place like Baltimore, where we've done a lot of urban stormwater management facilities that need love and care. Definitely, yeah, creating more opportunities.
Yeah, thanks. For those comments, and I want to kind of follow up on what Sam said as well. Kind of thinking about what happens after someone completes one of your programs and what their next steps look like. So you said, Sam, we talked a little bit about some examples, and we heard from Kelly Peaks as well and her story. So I was hoping maybe for the panelists to share a little bit more about kind of generally kind of where people end up, what types of positions or opportunities they end up after completing your program. Are there any other kind of stories you'd like to share about program graduates that come to mind?
Just jump in. From our initial that's Milo, sorry. From our initial class of pilot, the CBLPA pilot in Howard County. So it was a really big group in their Ready program. I think they had like 27 or 28 kids in that cohort. And out of that cohort, they were the first ones ever to get CBLPA. And complete the certificate. And out of that cohort, I think 3 of them went on to get jobs in the field and have completed level 1 training, which is our kind of baseline credential. And then one person actually just this spring, she completed level 2 training. So that she's the first person to kind of go all the way through our credentialing system. Of course, we have a lot of people that do. About 750 people have completed level 1 at this point, and we have about 120 level 2s. So not everybody, goes all the way through the advanced credential. So that was kind of exciting to see that it did actually work out for some of those young people.
I'm happy to share a little bit more for course successes also. I think one of them that I think about even being here today is so Carmera Thomas was in the Corps when she started her career, and she was on Introducing People yesterday, and so she is currently the director of urban conservation with the Conservation Fund. So she was in the Corps about 10 years ago, and she's done amazing things since being out of the Corps. But a lot of our Corps members, like, they also stay on with their host organizations. I think the Alliance for the Chesapeake Bay, for example, I think 3 of their Corps members that they've had are all still working with their own organization. And so I see a lot of times when the timing is right, and it's not always right, they want to keep their Corps members. They want their Corps members to stay. And that's something that is really great to see, because that's kind of the goal of the program, is to get these young people full-time positions within the field.
We've had some folks stay with the program all the way through freshman year to senior year, which is pretty neat. And we've had some folks go to college and decide to study an environmentally related degree, which is kind of neat. And we had an alumni panel over the spring where 3 young people came back and said that they're studying that because of their time in branches, which was kind of cool. And the program has only been running as a high school after school internship for 4 years now. So there's only so many that have been seniors and then graduate with us as alumni. So we're still waiting to see and trying to think back what else is going to come out of it.
Yeah, thank you everyone for sharing those stories. So in the minutes we have left, I wanted to ask a question, kind of think about your vision for the future. What are you most excited to kind of do next in your work, or kind of related to kind of the conversation we've been having? Also, kind of what are potential kind of, what's a vision also for kind of the work we can do collectively together as we build these stronger partnerships together?
I will just say for my part that I hope to find some time to get together with Sam and learn more about your program, because it sounds like a really great program that you're connecting with young people, and I enjoy your photographs of everybody outside. So I hope that that might be a first step. And yes, Joe, if I'm ever back in the office, I would really like to have a CCC intern working with us. So I hope there will be some opportunities like direct collaboration here, as well as with you, Eli. One of the things that I'm most excited about, we've been working in Pennsylvania and in Virginia with several organizations, including the state corrections departments. And we've been doing some conservation-based training for people who are incarcerated, but will be soon returning citizens. So I have long had you on my list of people to reach out to if we're able to continue this program and provide more training to people who are incarcerated. I know that they, when they return, are looking for support from organizations like yours. So I appreciate the opportunity to be on this panel and just spend a little bit of time with all of you.
Great, thank you, Beth. So we're about at time. So I want to close out our session. I want to thank our incredible speakers joined us today, Sam, Beth, Joe, and Kelly. Love to give you some sort of virtual round of applause. Really appreciate you sharing your thoughts and insights with us throughout today's conversation. So next up, we will have a closing performance by the singer Queen Earth, who will begin at 12:30. You can reach the performance by heading back to the stage through the link on the left of your screen. So again, thank you everyone for joining us, and yeah, really important conversation that I know we'll be continuing. Thank you.